lie down on your back. And lie in such a way that you know that where the windows are is the back of the room, and the top of your head is facing that way. And the soles of your feet are facing the front of the room, which is where the whiteboard is. So really orient yourself in the room so that you can use the room as a spatial frame of reference whenever you need it. So from now on, at least in this lesson, if I say front, I mean the front of the room, not your front. Sense your contact with the floor. Notice how much of yourself can you feel lying on the floor. What percentage do you reckon? %50? 60? 65? Yeah. No, we'd have to take you to hospital. I'm serious. You'd have to be a jellyfish. We'd have to take the skeleton out of you. Yeah? It's very hard to have all of you on the floor because your skeleton creates little archways. And, you know, I'm not just being silly, I'm actually being anatomically correct. Without destroying yourself, try to put the back of your neck on the floor in this position. Now, I didn't mean put your hand behind your neck. I meant try to put the back of your neck on the floor. Try to touch the back of your neck to the floor, and you'll find, if you did, we'd have to take you to hospital, really. So in this position, given the nature of your structure, it's impossible to have all of yourself lying on the floor. But it's also possible that more of yourself is being held up off the floor through muscular contraction than is needed. So every time that you return to your back throughout the course of this lesson, you can sense, is now more of me on the floor or is less of me on the floor? And notice something quite simple. As you breathe in and as you breathe out, does more of you push against the floor when you breathe in? Does more of you come into contact? Does that act of expanding yourself bring you more into contact with the floor or less into contact with the floor? And like everything, it's a relative question. All depends how you're breathing. But the question remains the same. Now, in week 1, I think I said to you that there is a balance between becoming a little bit more relaxed and your sensitivity improving. Yeah, less active, less contracted muscles means less background noise. Less background noise means you're able to detect smaller signals. Perfect circumstances for learning. Unfortunately, relaxed muscles usually take us in a particular direction called sleep. Yes? So how do you stay mentally alert, engaged, and yet gradually reduce the amount of muscular work that's going on so that your sensibility improves, your discrimination improves. So that's the invitation. Please, why not? Put your arms above your head, and in one continuous movement, please roll yourself up to sitting. And remain sitting. And sit so that you're facing front. And now place your right hand behind your head. And with your right hand, begin to explore the left side of your face. Above your head is not behind your head. Yeah? So the right arm is behind your head, not above your head. And find out what parts of the left-hand side of your face can you get to? Can you get to the left temple? Can you explore that with the right hand? Can you get to the left cheek? The left ear? Could you trace the outline of your left ear? Can you get to the left earlobe? And go back to the temple. And then the cheek. Can you touch any part of the jaw? And if you can touch the jaw, can you trace the jawline in the direction of the chin? Now, feel free to arrange your head in a way that makes this easy to do. So if you need to turn your head a little bit, you turn your head a little bit. If you need to lower your head a little bit, you lower your head a little bit. But your wrist and your arm are back of your head. Is it possible to actually hold your chin with your hand? For some of you, this will be possible. And for others, you know, don't be willful in that destructive way. At least I can make that distinction now, yes? Be willful in a constructive way. Just curious. And lower your arm down and rest a moment. Just give yourself a rest. Stay sitting. So just to continue that metaphor that I tried to introduce before lunch of navigation and sailing, and to link that in with direction. You know, on most ships, there's a captain, and there was a very famous captain who had a mutiny, Captain Bligh. No, Captain Bligh, yeah? And obviously, for all the sailors, to mutiny means the captain must have been pretty obnoxious kind of a fellow. So there's a way of directing yourself that's more like Captain Bligh, and then you can have a bodily mutiny, which usually results in pain. Or you can have a very benevolent captain that really looks after his or her crew, and you won't end up with a mutiny. And I promise you, I won't continue with that metaphor. So take your right arm, put it behind your head. Explore the left-hand side of your face again. and gradually find out what part of the left side of your face could you hold and remain comfortable holding. If it's your chin, hold your chin. If it's the side of your jaw, hold the side of your jaw. If you can hold your ear, hold your ear. Just any part of the left side of your face that you could say to yourself, I could remain here and breathe easily and this would be fine. I wouldn't get a neck ache at the end of it. I could do this all day, not a hassle. That's where you want to be. No. And now put your left hand on the floor in front of you and still holding on to some part of the left side of your face, start to direct your right elbow towards the floor in front and come back up. So your left hand is leaning on the floor somewhere in front of you. And you can be looking for what placement of the hand on the floor in front affords you bringing the elbow closer to the floor and remaining at ease in yourself. So left hand placement could help, could hinder. Rest whenever you need to. Yeah. For some of you, it's not a nice position of the neck. Yeah. Rest whenever you need to. No mute. Oh, I said I wouldn't do that metaphor, and I was about to say no mutinies. See? See how the mind works? Gets on a track and just goes. And the second thing that you can experiment is there a position for the legs that could afford you bringing the elbow closer to the floor? So there are two variables that you could experiment with: position of the left hand and position of the legs. And please take your time. Find out for yourself what best affords bringing the right elbow to the floor. Rest when you need to, come back to it when you need to. And you'll find that some leg positions make the damn thing very, very difficult. And other leg positions feel like, oh, that's much better. Why didn't I think of this in the first place? I think in educational circles, this is what they call learning by discovery. Yes? You learn by discovery. A context is set up, and within the parameters of that context, you just play and then you discover things. Now, if you really want the trunk to stiffen up, don't put the left hand on the floor. Yeah, actually, why don't you all try that? Put the left hand behind the back and feel what happens when you go to take that right elbow to the floor. And now that you can't lean on that left hand, now that you no longer have the bones of the left arm to help to prop you a little bit, can you feel how the trunk has to work a little bit more? So now return to having that left hand on the floor somewhere in front and find out what use is that left hand. Let that be in rest, please. Last week, this is just a recall for me, if some of you could help me to recall. Last week, did you talk about why we do things starting off lying on the floor? Did you talk about that? You did? Why do we do things lying on the floor? Because of gravity? Yep, definitely. Sorry? Yep, so that the floor gives you a good reference point? Absolutely. Yep. So there's a change in the way the muscles work. Some muscles work less and you can sense more. Yeah. So when you're lying on your back like this, what happens, and all of those points were exactly right, different orientation to gravity, different muscular tone, you sense the floor better. But when you're lying on the floor like this, all those patterns that you have to keep yourself upright in gravity, they don't have to be working. I'll say that again. All those patterns that you have learned that maintain you upright in gravity, they don't have to work. For a moment in time, you are free of those patterns. Which means those muscles that are usually occupied with keeping you upright, they're not occupied anymore. They're useful for something else. So how does this relate to having the left hand on the floor? Well, when you're upright, guess what? All those patterns come back of how you keep yourself upright. So how can you manage this a little bit? Well, you manage it by offering a little bit of support with that hand so that the muscles of the trunk are slightly freed up to do something different. That's all. You take the hand away. Oh, now all the trunk muscles have to do their usual thing. You put the hand down. Some of the muscles go, hey, wait a minute. I'm free to do something else. And that is subtle to sense for some of you and not so subtle for others. But that's the principle behind what putting that hand on the floor. Please roll to one side, come up to sitting. Sit facing the front of the room. Have your right leg behind. Have your left leg in front, and more or less have that sole of that left foot somewhere close to your right thigh or right knee. Hold on to some part of the left side of your face. Could be the chin, could be the jaw, could be the ear. And now, without resting your hand on the floor, lower your elbow in the direction of the floor. So this is a movement of flexion, and then come back up. And now put the left hand on the floor somewhere in front of you and use that left hand to liberate some of the work from your trunk. And go back and forth between the two and feel, is there somewhere in your trunk that just gives a little bit when you put that hand on the floor? For some of you, it might be a greater ease in breathing. For some of you, maybe the chest gets a bit softer, the back muscles loosen up a little bit, they get a bit more pliable. Who knows? So sitting in this asymmetrical position, bless you. So sitting in the asymmetrical position with your right leg backwards, bent, and your left leg forwards, bent, right leg backwards, left leg forwards. See if it's possible to touch the floor with the elbow, and if it's not, find out how close can you get without disturbing your breathing. Now, the next time that your elbow is close to the floor, stay there. And now from this low position, could you take the elbow forward in the direction of the front of the room, and then forward and then up towards the ceiling? And then return in that same trajectory. Go backwards and down, and then take the elbow forwards and up. Yep, absolutely. So you're there with the elbow close to the ground, and now move yourself in such a way that the elbow goes forward towards the front of the room, and then continues on up in the direction of the ceiling. And then return. And something inside you, something in your trunk is going to have to move from bending to arching. And then you'll need to go from arching to bending. That's it. And leave that left hand on the floor. Matter of fact, find a really good place for it where you can continuously use it to do this new variation. Forwards and up, and then backwards and down. Your elbow kind of draws a little arc through space, a curved trajectory through space. And you'll notice, if you pay attention, that something is happening in both hip joints. Can you feel that as you take that elbow forwards and up, how the two hip joints actually start to open up, become less flexed, and then as you return back down, how the two hip joints become more flexed? Let that be and rest, please. Lie with your legs long so that the soles of your feet are facing the front of the room and the top of your head is facing the back of the room. And introduce your right arm behind your head and hold some part of the left side of your face. And just stay there for a moment. And get a sense of how have you configured your head, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, in order to be able to do this. If it's, that's a nicely inhibited sneeze, bless you. If you can hold your chin, how have you configured yourself to hold your chin? Legs are long, unless of course that's painful, and then don't have your legs long. Now, remaining lying on your back, more or less, and the emphasis is on more or less, start to move yourself so that the right elbow goes side to side over the floor. Yeah. So relative to the floor. That's it. And when you do that, feel which parts of yourself bend. Oh. Aren't distractions wonderful? What happened to your attention when that went off? Did you go right outside your body? Most likely. Hey, where's the cake? Yeah. And if you try to make the movement slightly larger, you'll find that staying stuck to the floor in one plane of motion, that side-to-side plane of motion, doesn't work anymore. Then you have to start to rotate a little bit. So please continue the exploration, but only go to the right and then come back to the middle. To the right and come back to the middle. You can do whatever you like with that left hand. I didn't say that. So now that becomes unspecified. Use your legs in a way that helps. Yeah. So the instruction is you're still taking your elbow right and returning to the middle. And there's a moment that if you just stay moving in one plane, you can't go any further. So that if you wanted to continue on around to the right, notice how you begin to turn yourself, that moment. Did you feel that moment of turning? Yeah. So that side flexion then has to become rotation. Just to the right and return to the middle. And like you did in the lesson this morning, some of you are already doing it, you can bend the legs, take the feet backwards to your left, while the knees go forward to your right. And if you continued on around, you'd come up to sitting. Yep, that's a long sentence, huh? If you continued circling your elbow around to the right, there's a moment that if you bend your legs and have your feet going backwards, you could come up to sitting. That's it. No, I try to carefully say not to do that. So remember I said just take it across the ground. Yeah. Because to actually touch your elbow to the ground there, can you feel how you have to kind of arch yourself? Yeah. But as you roll to your right more and more, maybe your elbow does come onto the ground, and then it can continue on the ground until you roll up to sitting facing the front of the room. Ah, those damn legs. What will you do with them? Great. Let that be rest, please. Please come up to sit. Notice how you did that. And is there any little bit of a leftover from the lesson you did with Jenny to come up to sit? Did you use that pattern of sweeping the arms and the legs around? Yeah. Yeah. So don't leave those things behind. You can use them. Okay. Sit with your left leg bent backwards and your right leg in front. And now hold your left side of your face with your right hand, just like you've been doing. Yeah, right hand. That's it, left side of face, that crossing the midline. Yeah, that comes pretty late in development, you know, the ability to cross the limb across the midlines comes late. So, and now from here, begin to take your elbow towards the floor and come back up. And each time you go down, see if it's possible to bring the elbow more towards the right knee. Some of you are using your left hand and some of you have forgotten about your left hand. That's not a correction, by the way. That's just a reminder. And you can explore the difference between using it and not using it. Now, the next time your elbow is close to the ground, could you start to take that left elbow in a trajectory around to the right, past the knee, around to the right, and then come back again? Did I say left? Oh, my apologies. I meant right. Absolutely. So you're down there, your elbow's close to the ground, probably close to your right knee. And now from that place, go further around to the right, past the right knee, and then around the floor to your right, and come back again. Do that many times. And then in the back of your mind, hold the intention of rolling onto your back. But explore that a little bit at a time. And when you roll onto your back, your feet will end up facing the front of the room and the back of your head will end up pointing to the back of the room. And then you just reverse it to come back up to sitting. Take your time. That's it. And then some of you use your feet to walk around. That's okay. Know that that's an option to start with, but continue on exploring and find, is it possible through one movement and one movement alone, just to take the elbow around to the right until you end up on your back, and then take the elbow around to the right until you come up to sitting, facing the front of the room. And here's the challenge. This is a challenge, actually. Can you remain aware of where you are in space relative to the room as you continue to explore? So now you're expanding your field of attention, not just to include the sensations of your body, but your orientation in space. And you did this last week when you were coordinating with each other. You had to remain aware of who was to your left, who was to your right, moving together. Thankfully, the room is still. It's not going anywhere. So the legs need to go from being folded to unfolded and then folded again. Now, here's the biggest clue I can give you. Keep the pelvis continuously rolling. Keep the pelvis continuously rolling. Roll, 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 roll. Nice, nice, nice. And the more you can keep the elbow low, 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 the easier it gets. And the more you can keep the trunk round, 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 the easier it gets. And then you just lengthen yourself. Yep. You're holding your head the whole time. You're still holding your head. You're still holding your head. Nasty, huh? Yeah. No. Well, it's not nasty. It's just asking of you something that you all had in the lesson before, but now it's kind of taken away. This whole movement in the upper shoulder area. Now you have to move parts of yourself in a different way. Next time you find yourself on your back, stop, rest, let it be. What's the lyrics of that song? When I find myself in times of trouble, Moshe Feldenkrais comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Oh, that was impromptu. Sorry for all you Catholics in the room and Beatles fans. Yeah, watch out for the bag. If you happen to be lying on your back with your legs long, your arms on the floor, what's different compared to when you started? Now, you know, the pelvis that we were talking about earlier, you could think of the pelvis as the hub of a wheel. And if you think of a bicycle wheel, that's a nice prototype here. You've got a bicycle wheel, it has a hub, and then it has all of these spokes radiating from the hub of the wheel to the periphery of the wheel where the tire is. And you could conceive of the anatomy of the body being kind of similar. You have the pelvis in the center, and then you have the 4 spokes of the limbs. But actually you have 5 spokes. You have a spine, and then from that spine you have 2 arms, and then from the pelvis you have 2 legs. But the pelvis is like the hub. And as soon as you move the hub of a wheel, guess what happens to all the spokes? They move too. So if you can get the hub of the wheel moving, that means all the rest will kind of follow if you're careful, paying attention. Move the pelvis and the legs will eventually organize themselves. Move the pelvis and the trunk will eventually organize itself. You just have to be patient, attentive, and quite constant. Please introduce your right arm behind your head. Hold onto your left chin or some part of the left side of your face that you can get to easily. And I can't overemphasize get to easily. No point cricking your neck to do this lesson. Now imagine to yourself going to your right. Just imagine it, just thunk it. Imagine yourself taking that elbow to the right in a big, big arc until you end up sitting. And think that to do that, you will start by moving your pelvis. Please imagine that as vividly as you like. Imagine, imagine, imagine. And of course, different parts of you will have to move at different speeds at different times. That's something that you'll need to find out along the journey. So could you please do that and keep your elbow as close to the floor for as long as possible. So roll yourself up to sit so that you're facing the room, and then return to lying on your back so that the top of your head is to the back of the room, and make mistakes, which you can then correct the next time. Yeah, now some of you are starting to use that left hand to help. Is it in a good position to help? Just a reminder, work in Feldenkrais isn't a dirty word. Yeah. To move yourself, muscles must contract. That equals work. Yeah? To raise yourself from being onto the floor to being up to sitting requires work. but the experience of the work can be very different. So work can be done in a way that your experience is one of effortless lightness. And work can be done in such a way that it feels like toil and effort and strain. Both are work. So don't think that you can do this without working. You must work in that physiological sense. You must contract musculature and expend energy. And the difference is the harmonious expenditure of energy or the non-harmonious. Your choice. Now notice, at what time do you lose your pelvis? In other words, when would you go bump? Yeah, that left arm can sweep around and around and around and around. Yes. Some of you are using that left arm to actually sweep on the floor right above your head and then around to the right. So I'm sharing that with you because that's what I can see already some of you doing. And that comes from the lesson before. Do you remember that? When the arms were in an X, well now one arm could be in an X. All right. Give it up. Let it be. And when you're resting like this, notice, is there any one part of you that you can detect has worked too much? Leaving both of your arms free, roll yourself up to sitting. And this time, sit with the right leg bent backwards. Hold some part of the left side of your face with your right arm. Lower your elbow to the floor. Come back. See how that's going. And then take the elbow close to the floor, forwards, and then bring it back. Forwards, bring it back. And find out how far in front of you can you take that elbow. Close to the floor. And something will happen in your trunk. as you take that elbow further away from you, notice how your trunk begins to elongate. And then as you bring the elbow back, can you feel how the trunk starts to round and you become into a smaller, smaller little ball? Can you feel that? Now, somewhere between those two, not quite totally elongated and not totally rounded, could you stay with your elbow close to the floor and then take your elbow around to the left and then around to the right and just sway yourself. Right, left, right, left, and feel how you move around your hip joints and feel how your pelvis moves on the floor. And now bring your elbow to the front again, somewhere in the middle. And from here, take the elbow forward, 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 and up, 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 and then down, 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 and back, 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 back. So now you're no longer keeping the elbow close to the floor. You're sending it forwards and up in an arc, and then backwards and down in an arc. And feel how this moves your pelvis. Feel how your hip joints become involved. Okay, now come up to being upright. And then place your hand on the floor somewhere to your left. Your hand, your right arm's, have it rest a little bit sitting upright. Just rest a little bit. Sorry, a bit too long. Okay, so sit with that right leg behind again. Have your right arm behind your head, hand holding some part of the left side of your face. Now take that left hand and lean on the floor somewhere to your left, where you could comfortably just bring your elbow to the floor and then come back up again. Yeah? So place your hand on the floor somewhere to your left, and then bend that left elbow and rest on your elbow and forearm, and then come up again. In other words, go down to leaning on your elbow and forearm, and then return. That's it. And where you place that hand relative to your pelvis is going to make a big difference. Too far, and you'll feel that you have to overstretch yourself. Too close, and you'll feel you're all crammed up. Too far back, too far forward. So where is the sweet spot? Where you can just lean more and more to the left, and the elbow just goes plunk. Ah, beautiful. Okay, so now stay leaning on that forearm and elbow so that you can actually bear weight. And in that position, leaning on the elbow and forearm, touch the floor in front of you with your elbow and come back. Yeah, you stay leaning on your left elbow and forearm. Sorry? Oh, you just come back. That's it. So you were like down here in this cave, and I'm going, I hear a voice. I hear someone. Yep, your elbow's definitely off to the left, not in front. That's right. Now, and now do the opposite. Instead of bringing the elbow to the floor in front, turn yourself so that the elbow goes backwards in space towards the back of the room. Right elbow. Oh, I'm getting mixed my elbows up. Left elbow stays on the ground. Right elbow goes backwards in space towards the back of the room. That's it. Thank you for picking that up. That's good. Yeah. Now combine those two. Right elbow, got that one. Right elbow to the floor in front, right elbow towards the back of the room. And can you feel how you turn and twist in your chest? Can you feel that? Stay on that left elbow. Stay on that left elbow. That's it. Okay, now leave that, remain sitting. But if you want to lie on your back, lie on your back. It's up to you, but just rest a bit. And once again, come up to sitting, sit with your right leg back, hold on to the left side of your face. The chin, is it possible to get to the chin now? For some of you that might have changed. And now take your elbow towards the floor, towards the front, and then take that right elbow around to the left, around to the left, around to the left, until you end up lying on your back with your legs long, and then return. That's it. And a smile might appear on your face. You never know. Yeah. Just go around to the left, and then around to the left, and then around to the left, and then around to the left. From sitting to lying, from lying to sitting. You end up lying on your back with your head towards the back of the room. And every time you come up to sit, you come up to sit facing front. So that is the orientation. Now, the next time that you come up to sit, instead of returning to your left, could you continue around to your right so that you actually complete the circle? So you're on your back, you roll to your left, you roll to your left, you come up to sit, and then you roll to your right, you roll to your right, you roll to your right, you end up on your back. And to make this easy, keep your elbow as close to the ground as possible all the time. So you never have to come up fully erect at any time. So around and around in a circle you go. That's it. Use the left arm. Beautiful. Yeah, the left arm becomes useful maybe for a while. And then after a while, yep. So you're going around and around, same direction. So start off lying on your back. Yep. You've got your right arm around. And then you roll around to your left. That's it. And you gradually make your way to sitting. And then from sitting, you take your elbow around to the right, around to, something's going to have to happen with the legs, that's it, and then continue onto your back. So somewhere in the middle there, something needs to happen with the legs. And every now and then I can hear this little in the background, which means someone has temporarily held their breath and then remembered to breathe. That's it. Use that left arm to sweep, 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 sweep. Change direction. Go around the other way. And now do it badly. I already have, someone said, I already have. Well, do it intentionally badly. Yeah, but not in such a way that you injure yourself, just a minor badly. Something that you definitely can register in your sensation as that hinders, that doesn't help. And you might find, like someone found this morning, that in the process of doing something badly, you actually find out something that might be useful. I haven't forgotten. Yeah, it could be possible that you get a little bit seasick. Take it easy. Take it easy. But I'm not allowed to use that metaphor again, remember? Yeah. So just go a little bit at a time and really scan the room. See where you are in the room. See where you are in the room. See where you are in the room. Yeah? So use your vision to detect where you are. Okay. Okay, it looks like it's time to stop. Please lie on your back, rest. So as you're lying on the back, notice what parts of yourself do you need to release muscularly? In other words, are there parts of you that have been working more than others? And you can sense those are the parts that are kind of still holding on. So as you lie there for just a little bit longer, feel, oh, I can just stop contracting there. I can just let myself settle a little bit more onto the floor. And this distinction can help you. When you go to do this lesson again, this distinction can help you to identify those places that you always go for in times of need. And it's those places that you always go for in times of need are the ones that get overworked. Yeah? They're the ones that we know how to access. They're the ones that are seasick. Could be your neck, yeah. Your gut, yeah. Please roll to your side and come up to standing. Oh, and some of you put your arms in an X. Feel what it's like to stand. Where's your orientation in the room? Don't change it. Just where is your orientation? Are you facing the back of the room? Are you facing the front of the room? And then within the context of that orientation, how do you feel inside yourself? I know that some of you already mentioned that you're feeling maybe a little nauseous, but some of you might be feeling different. Walk a little bit, feel what walking is like. Is there any difference in the sense of your chest? The way the pelvis moves as you walk? Your pelvis feels more rolly? Okay. So we have reached the end of the day. Have a good evening and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Ciao.
Just before you disappear, I did mention to you, and Susan spoke also about the fact